Hi, it's Jasmin. You know, that girl who did you know what way before the internet ever existed. Join me and my special guest every week as we talk about anything and everything because nothing is too taboo. So punch your ticket and get on board the Krazy Train with me, Jasmin St. All aboard! Welcome to a new episode of Krazy Train Podcast with yours truly. Next up is one of my favorite indie wrestlers, spreading lots of blood all over the place with his barbed wire baseball bat, which looks really scary, by the way. So it's none other from Michigan, the dirtiest white boy ever, Chuck Stein. Thank you so much for joining me. Although there were several technical glitches, I'm not a big fan of technology, but it's what connects us in these podcasts. So thank you for joining me today, Chuck. I got to ask you. So I read somewhere, and I know I don't like to read too much about people. Are you really a haunt actor as well? Do you do those haunts?
Yes, I do. I actually just quit working at the haunt, but I was working at Eloise Asylum in Michigan. It's like a multi-million-dollar place, huge.
Well, what kind of maze? Was it a maze? Did you jump out at people? Did you chase them? Were there rules?
Well, we were a touch haunt, so we could touch people, in a way where they wouldn't get hurt, but I would send people into walls a lot. Um, I worked there for 3 years. I started as an actor, and by the third year, I was the attraction lead on one of our floors.
What was that?
Basically, I was the babysitter.
A babysitter. Well, what was your
Yeah.
character? Were you dressed up like in a
Oh,
baby diaper or something?
oh no, 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 no. I was like a mad scientist. I was the guy because on the floor we were turning people into bugs. And at the end it was all bugs and stuff, bug people. And I was the mad scientist that was making it all happen.
So I get scared of those. I went to one only in my life. I went to Blackout.
Oh yeah.
You know what Blackout is? Have you ever been?
No, no, I haven't been there.
So they're actually allowed to touch you. They make you sign a waiver, but you get
Mhm.
waterboarded and stuff. They make you crawl on the ground through like well, they said they're filthy condoms. I really don't want to know what was in it. Um,
Right.
then I got waterboarded. Yeah, it was actually really scary, and there were no real safe words. Did you have safe words?
No, no, no. We didn't get too extreme with it until we held our extreme night. And
What's
then we can make people eat stuff, make people touch things. Like if there's a large group, we might just grab one of them and make them walk through the whole thing by themselves, stuff like that. I
Man, I
actually,
don't.
actually, I actually did deathmatch wrestling the first year during Extreme Night
Oh
for
yeah.
4 hours until I couldn't do it anymore.
I could see where the correlation is between haunts, like JD Horror and his wife have something. You've
Yeah,
met JD, right? And then now I see that you're mixed in with Horror Slam. So how long have you been with Horror Slam? And tell me how that whole thing happened.
I've been with Horse Slam since they started in 2017. It was idea by Briar Wellington, who is just happens to be my trainer as well. So he was like, I got this idea and I want you to be a big part of it. So here we go. And here we are.
Yeah, the posters look really cool. What do you think is something that sets Horror Slam apart than most indie deathmatch promotions?
Oh, that's hard to say. That's hard to say because there's a lot of similarities between all of them. But I mean, being from Detroit, we're a little more gritty.
I've seen like some of the clips from shows before from Horror Slime. It looks really cool. Speaking of wrestling, so you started training in 2017, you said, or 2000?
No, I started
1999?
I started training in 2011
Okay.
at 35 years old.
A late
Yeah.
bloomer.
Yeah.
What what made you decide at like 35 you wanted to wrestle?
Well, it's been something that I've wanted to do since I was a kid. I did the backyard wrestling when I was younger, and then I stopped. And then it just I went to a show and the bug bit me again. And it's like, why not? Let's just do training just to say I did it. And yeah, 12 years later, here I am,
You
still
got to
going.
be careful though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've been lucky that injuries have been minimal.
But when you're backyard wrestling, okay, do they go through ring psychology? Do they show you how to take bumps? Like, what did you do to actually protect yourself? Because I see some of those things that JJ Allen does, and it's outrageous.
Oh, see, backyard wrestling for me was in the late 90s, early 2000s. And we weren't jumping off roofs. We weren't doing all the crazy. We were trying to have matches, like WWE style matches. That's what we were doing. And we would, a bunch of us, around the same age, we'd be out there for like 8 hours. We'd do like 10 matches each. It was ridiculous, but it was fun.
So what kind of moves were you doing? Because I'll be honest with you, I've never seen like a real death match, a real backyard wrestling match, except for like Jackass or JJ
Oh,
Allen.
right, right. Oh no, I mean we were out there doing body slams, suplex, we were just doing regular wrestling moves. It wasn't like hardcore wrestling. There was no barbed wire, there was no blood. It was yeah, that came a little later.
But how did you learn? I mean, because I was training back then when I was, when I first started. So you learn all the basics, like tucking your chin, how to do the
Right,
back
right.
bumps. Did you even do that? Like, how did you learn how to do that part of it when you're backyard wrestling if you had no training? Were you just watching
Well,
TV?
I mean, at the time, in Michigan, the indies were big in the 90s. Like, we had a few promotions like Sabu would be coming through, Candido, Foley. Like, it was like ECW stars were coming in a lot. And, we were good with the local promotions. So, I mean, at the time, it was starting to become common knowledge of how wrestling worked. And we just I don't want to say trained because we weren't trained, but we were just kind of going through the motions with each other and made it work a little bit.
What were you doing before then, aside from the haunt acting? Was there another job you had prior to that? Like, if you want to reveal that.
Construction. I do construction, which unfortunately I still have to do it, but that's okay.
I guess it's a workout, right? Like kind of climbing
Oh
and
yeah,
everything.
yeah. I do heating and cooling furnaces and air conditioners, so I'm lifting heavy stuff.
Well, then there's your workout. You don't have to really get to the gym then. Um, but that's sort of a peculiar age, and I'm not knocking it. I think that's great because people like I didn't get into pro wrestling until I was in my late 20s, early 30s when I
Right.
started that. Then you
Yep.
fast forward to 20 something years later, and I'm back and still taking like big bumps. So I get it. Like it's kind of a sickness we have in our head somehow. And
Yeah,
it's a
it
good
is.
sickness, though. It just keeps you young. When you were training, how long was that process when you felt as though you were properly trained to get in the ring? Was it a month, 2 months, a year?
It was a year. It was a year because I was training with Briar Wellington, and for a while we had a building, and then we didn't. So I was just he would meet at shows, and we'd talk to the promoter or whoever had the ring, and I would get ring time before the show started, a little training here and there. So the training was kind of stretched out a little bit, but it was a year.
Did they teach you psychology?
Yeah, a little bit.
God,
That's I
everyone's
mean
process is different.
that one's a hard one to teach though. That one it just kind of comes with time. Like they can kind of tell you, but you just have to figure it out for yourself. Figure out what works for you, and
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I've worked with some people that like didn't have psychology that were outside of the ring, and it's kind of like a pain in the ass, and I just want to beat the shit out of them or something. But I know you can't do that. And by the way, you scared the crap out of me. I didn't want to keep beating you that day because I felt bad. Um,
yeah,
yeah, you're like, yep, uh-huh, because I didn't know if you were going to do something. I'm like, is this guy going to grab this from me and whack me? Because I have to stop now. But your gimmicks over well. So how many gimmicks have you had prior to being like Dirty White Boy?
as a pro, that's the only gimmick I've had. I kind of I was like basic. I've never been. You will never see me wearing tights or trunks. I will never put on tights or trunks. So I always did like the camouflage pants and the black tank top or whatever. And then I took some time off because I was going through a divorce. And the promoter was like, "Well, when you come back with a different look." And I was like, "I'm just gonna go full punk with it." And like people like latched onto it pretty good and just riding the wave now.
Yeah, it goes pretty well because it's another subculture. It's sort of like heavy metal and wrestling,
Yeah,
punk,
yeah,
pro
yeah,
wrestling. So it's always the same, and it's a good gimmick. It works for you. So what do you think the correlation is? Like Chorus Slam, I know I keep going back to it because I'm fascinated by it for some reason, just because I love the posters and I
yeah.
think the shows are really cool. Do you think there's a correlation between horror films and pro wrestling?
Absolutely. Like it's all gore. It's all gore, blood and guts.
So it's probably the
The
same
people love it.
people. Well,
Yeah, I love it.
do you like horror
What's that?
movies? Do you
Oh
like
yeah,
horror?
absolutely, absolutely. I'd say like Night of the Living Dead and the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre are probably my favorite movies.
And what's the scariest one? Poltergeist? Yeah, what's the scariest movie you think that's been out there?
Scariest movie?
Like genre, like horror genre wise. Like what do you think is that one film that had you legitimately scared?
I mean, growing up, it had to be like Friday the 13th.
Because like you didn't want to go to sleep. I think it was Poltergeist for me.
Okay.
Um, and then I snuck into The Shining and that one scene where they had like all the blood coming down the steps,
Hmm, hmm,
right? And
hmm.
a bunch of us went running out of the theater. We lied to our parents. We said we're going to go see Grease. We didn't see Grease. We went to The Shining. I keep trying to think of that one movie that they put out there as Paranormal Activity. Did you ever see Paranormal Activity?
No, I've never seen that one.
Are you into paranormal things?
A little bit, and that ties into the haunted house actually that I worked at because it was an old psychiatric hospital.
Ugh.
Like all, do you think of all the messed up things that they would do to people in psychiatric hospitals? That's what happened at Eloise. It's like it's documented and it's a creepy place.
Did you feel spirits in there?
I definitely felt something from time to time.
Oh my God. Yeah, I think of psychiatric hospitals. I used to stay at this really nice hotel in Manhattan when I was living abroad, and like they comped me a room on the second floor, right? Like on the spa room floor. It's supposed to be all new and cool. Oh, thank you. I get in there, right? And then the sink goes on and off by itself. Then the lights
Oh,
start flickering on and off, right? I'm like, holy shit, like, why is this happening to me? Like, these things have to go, spirit be
right, right.
gone, you don't belong here. Then it's like really cold. So they called the maintenance guy. The maintenance guys were like, well, you know what this was before? No, what was it? It was a children's psychiatric hospital.
Oh,
So kids
oh,
like to play games like that, right? And fuck
right,
around and
right.
do dumb things. So yeah. So that's what that was. And sometimes I feel as though also the person that you're hanging out with, maybe some of it's like with them that they carry it. And maybe
Hmm,
these things wouldn't
hmm.
have been out there if my friend wasn't with me. So I've got to look up the Eloise situation now at some point. What do you think one of the hardest struggles is in deathmatch wrestling on the indies?
I would say like there's only so many shows. Like like me, I don't do just deathmatch wrestling. I will
Okay.
do family friendly shows. I love doing family friendly shows. And I am wrestling almost every weekend, like sometimes multiple times a weekend. And like if I was in here in Michigan just doing just death matches and not traveling, I'd be working like once a month. And that's not what I want.
What's your ultimate goal with it?
Oh, just to keep going, just to see how far I can get. Because I know age is against me. So it's just go take it as far as I possibly can. I want to wrestle everywhere.
I don't know if age is so much against you because you have guys that are older doing this, right?
Yeah.
Still
Yeah.
get signed everywhere. I just think it's such a like Missy Hyatt's 60 years old
Hmm, hmm. Yeah,
and
I have
she's
been seeing her
back.
out lately. She's back. Yeah.
She's back. And I just feel as though, like, okay, we have the situation with Dylan, even though he's younger than we are. Wait, is he? He's
He's
younger
a
than
little
I am,
he's a little
but
older than me.
than you? Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's out there doing his thing, surviving cancer and everything. And then he came back. Then we have all these other guys like the Pondos and even older guys in Japan doing death matches. Even Terry Funk was doing it.
Oh,
So
right, right, right.
you could never say never. It's just a matter of where your ass ends up, whether it's like GCW,
Hmm.
Impact. Have you done Canada yet?
I have been in Canada once. I'll be going back in August.
Do you see a difference between deathmatch wrestling there and deathmatch wrestling in the USA or just the shows in general?
Well, I've only done one show in Canada, so I can't really compare the two based off that one.
Wait, were you working with the body on that show?
Yes, yes, I did. I did. I got
Yeah, he's
hassled
a.
at the border and everything.
Who
That
did
was
you got hassled at the border?
I got hassled at the border, yeah.
Why?
Because I listened and took bad advice from people when they said, "Don't tell them you're going over there to wrestle." So I didn't. And then because it was my first time going over, they sent me to customs to search my car, and then it became a whole big thing. They almost didn't let me in.
Well, what happened? Like, did they take your stuff out? Were they smelling your gear bag or some shit?
Well, they like opened up the back and they were like, "Well, what is all this?" And I had mentioned that I was going to a wrestling show, and then they Googled me. Yep.
Well, I don't get that. Like, then they just let you go to wrestle then, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it's fun. It's like people told me not to say I was going there to wrestle because I was getting paid for it. They told me it's perfectly fine because it's performance art. I'm like, okay. Well, I almost got fucked over because I was listening to these other people.
You didn't listen to the body, did you?
No.
Okay, that's smart. Yeah, I
Yeah.
had an issue in Canada years ago that I think has been cleared up since 2011. It was I was feature dancing at those clubs and I was selling my penthouse magazines and porn videos fine for many times, right? Then the
Right.
one time I go, they took them. You can't do this here. It's like, okay, fine. Then I went
Okay.
out with some guys on a motorcycle to a party and then left the party with some guy. We're skinny dipping in someone's pool. So we got busted for that, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I decided I didn't want to go to court. So I just left and came back to the States. There's been a warrant for my arrest for like over 12 years, but I got back in during the ECW days when they had casino buses.
Okay.
Yeah, I was there with New Jack of all people, who has like 8 justifiable homicides. They're like,
Right,
"What are you
right,
guys
right.
doing?" "Oh, we're just gonna go play the slots." Yeah, no, we were going to wrestle. Um, so I've been dealing with the RCMP. They just did like a full fingerprint background check. There's nothing on my record. Now the police station was like, "Yeah, it's gone. It's like been purged." So now I'm getting a letter from them. It could take years. Like that took 97, 2007, like 12 years to get
Yeah.
cleared up. 12, 13
Wow.
years.
Yeah.
But I didn't know, like I didn't have a performance artist visa, but I would imagine that you need to do like in Japan, you need a visa because they do things like so properly. Are there places you haven't wrestled yet that you want to wrestle?
Until recently, I didn't think Japan was an option. I would love to go to Japan or Mexico. Japan or Mexico.
Yeah, I think Mexico has some great shows like AAA, Lucha Underground, all those things. Because
Yeah.
they like characters in Japan. Like that's what
Yeah.
they like, characters, big characters. And I don't get like where the blood ends with these things. Like where do you see deathmatch going? Do you see it like going too far at one point? Do you see it maybe backing off? Because I just think it's like it's too much. It's too much. Like I get squeamish, I get very squeamish around blood. But I'm
Really?
in the middle of it, right?
Yeah. I mean, it goes in phase. Wrestling goes in phases. Like in the late '90s, deathmatch wrestling was actually pretty big in Detroit, and then it
Oh.
kind of went away. And like ECW, FMW was more hardcore, borderline deathmatch stuff, and it went away, and then it came back, and it just kind of goes in waves. Whether it's gonna burn out, who knows? Who knows? It seems to be
Give your
really
bodies a
popular right
break.
now.
Yeah, give your bodies a break for fucking crying out loud. Seriously. Because some of the stuff, like when Necro Butcher told you that one time, I want you to hit me hard with that bat. I'm like, no,
Yeah, yeah.
I know, I'm like, it can't be happening. But um, yeah, everyone has different um wrestlers they look up to and different idols growing up in wrestling. So who were some of your favorites growing up? Like if you ever grew up?
Um, Blonde-haired Sting, Surfer Sting was my favorite when I was little. When I started to get into the indies, it was Sabu.
Oh yeah.
Like the first two indie shows I ever went to, the main event was Sabu and Terry Funk, and I was hooked.
That's a very good main event. What did they have in the main event that was very different? Did they have like light tubes slamming tables?
The first one was just a Texas death match, so there was no glass or nothing. Like actually, neither one of them had glass, or just tables, maybe some barbed wire.
So, if you're looking for the safest and coolest way to bet online and the most variety, of course, of games and like almost anything you could bet on, stop at betonline.ag because I guarantee you there is something for everyone. Sometimes when I watch those, I just wonder like, is there a way to make it where less is more? Because I've had Pondo on here and other guys where they feel as though sometimes guys use too much glass in their matches.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever have a veteran tell you like, hey, don't do this, don't like, did you even ever ask anyone to look at your match and give you feedback at any point in your career?
Oh yeah, I have throughout my career, but I've been lucky to have like guys like Necro and Pondo helping me out, and yeah, learning from them. So like those guys are legends. Like I don't know anybody better
Yeah.
around here to ask.
Yeah, they're the king of that stuff. I want to go to a horror slam show like really bad. Just I don't know why I'm obsessed with it. I think just because it's something different, the name of it, and it looks like
Mhm.
I used to collect monster model kits when I was younger. So it looks
Okay.
like one of those 1960s Aurora Glow kits, like it has the same artwork, the same vibe.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, that's what I'm thinking of whenever I see it. What was your original aspiration growing up? Was it always to be a wrestler or was it to be like a slaughterhouse technician?
No, actually, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a veterinarian. Yeah, yeah, I love animals. Love animals. Always have.
What do you have?
Right now, all I have is fish.
That's it?
That's it. Yeah, I got like three fish tanks set up,
Yeah,
three
but how
small
do they
ones.
sustain themselves while you're gone?
Oh, they're just little tropical fish. They're okay. They're fine. I've had many pets like tortoises and turtles and chinchillas and all kinds of stuff. I haven't had
Chinchillas?
dogs since I was a little kid. Chinchilla, it's like a little rodent. It's super soft. It's about that big. Super soft.
But it's a rodent.
Yes, yes.
Could you step on it and kill it or something?
Well, you keep it in a cage. It's, it, I mean, it's decent size.
What's so special about it, though?
Um, it's just
I'm
a
sorry, I've
fun,
just never heard of it.
just a fun pet to have. They're so soft, so soft. Like the coats get made out of them, unfortunately.
Well, wait, do you pick it up and hold, like, were you picking this thing up and holding it?
Oh,
And
oh
like,
yeah, you can pick it up and hold it. Yeah, they're
I think I'm
super
gonna Google
friendly.
this. I'm gonna
Yeah.
Google this. This is just, I'm sorry, I've heard of sloths. I've heard of things
Uh-huh.
like that, but not like a chinchilla, like, or someone holding a rodent and like, oh, hi, baby, how are you? Petting it. It's just like, it's like picking up a bobblehead. Oh, hi. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I've got to Google. I like interesting pets and like I always like hearing pet stories. Um, I just have a black cat, that's all.
Okay.
But yeah, you struck me as a cat person for some reason.
I've had cats, yeah,
Yeah,
but
Pussy's
I don't
great.
where where I'm at right now. I really can't have pets, so I just got fish.
Okay. It's probably a little bit like less maintenance when it comes to attention and playing with them because cats always
Yeah,
want your attention. Um,
yeah.
so your first match that you went to was what?
Sabu and Terry Funk. Well, the first wrestling show I ever went to was a SummerSlam
Huh.
at Palace of Auburn Hills in Michigan. Main event was Yokozuna and Lex Luger.
Oh, that's a
Yeah,
good one.
yeah.
Yeah, that's old school. I feel as though like nowadays, so many like with indies especially, maybe it just depends on how often you run, but so many lack storylines,
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
it's just people doing the big moves for the sake of doing it, this and that. And I just feel like so many things are gratuitous. What do you think something is that the indies are missing right now, aside from more of you?
That's storylines, definitely. Continuous storylines. Because I've been in promotions and it'll be like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, and then like say I'm working a program with somebody else. Well, that other person gets into an argument with the promoter and then they're gone. And it's like, well, we're trying to start something and then somebody can't make a date or, and especially after the pandemic and everything, people are a lot less reliable. It seems like.
Yeah, I think mostly because everything, but the pandemic promoted a lot of bad behavior with people and some of the
Yeah.
worst qualities, like people just saying things to be relevant online. Um, what else was there? Just, people just have no work ethic now. Like I was sitting at a sushi place and next to me was a sloth, and I don't mean to insult the animal, the sloth, because those are cute. She had no fucking socks on. She's in her sweats, and the guy sitting there with her was dressed nicely. She says to the
Mhm.
waitress, "Oh, well, I just need to check because I got to get home for a meeting." I'm like, "Oh, that's right. They're doing Zoom meetings now. People are working from home.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
it is." And that's where it fostered the laziness with a lot of people, I feel, where people don't want to work as much or show up to do things.
Hmm. Hmm.
Wrestling took a hit.
Yeah, wrestling did take a hit, and in Michigan, we tried our best to keep it going. Though, like we went back to the backyards, and we were setting up rings in backyards, and like 100, 200 people were coming.
Really?
Yes, yes, and it was like we kind of just did our thing. We did the undisclosed location shows and stuff like that, and there was a few months off, but not a whole lot. They just weren't happening in buildings.
Were they wearing masks when they were outside?
Some people were. Some people were.
Were they checking your Vax cards as well or test?
That started coming later. That started coming later. I got so sick of taking the tests that I was just like, just give me the shot. And honestly, I regret getting the shot. I think it messed me up. I've had so many infections since I got the shots. It's
Which one?
weird.
Pfizer?
Uh, Moderna, Moderna, however you say it.
Yeah, Moderna. Yeah. I
Yeah.
know a lot of people that have had issues. I personally didn't do it because I'm afraid of needles.
Okay.
I do own a Vax card though. I don't know if that's illegal. I just own it. Doesn't mean anything. I just own one. It doesn't say that I have a vaccine, folks. It just says I own a fucking Vax card. That's all. The
Yeah.
amount of families that were separated, like the amount of weddings, like my cousin got married. My mom's like, well, she doesn't have a vaccine. So all of a sudden it's like, stay away. You can't come here,
Um,
devil woman. It's like, I don't want to go to your fucking wedding anyway, man. It's like, it's boring. Like, it's not even catered properly. It's not like a real wedding. Then my best friend finally got married right after the pandemic.
mhm.
For her engagement party, they're asking for Vax cards or whatever. I'm like, dude, you know me like way better than that. Come on, don't ask me for a fucking card. So
Right, right.
they didn't ask, but for the wedding, it was like a free for all, like all over the place.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I don't know. A lot of people I heard have been getting like side effects from these things. And you seem like a healthy person. How many times a week do you work out if you're not like lifting and doing
I,
construction?
I I really don't. I do
Okay.
some exercises. I got like one of them stretch bands. I do some exercises like that, but I go into the gym. I I I remember the last time I went to the gym. It was November 16th, 2001. Because the next day,
Wow.
because the next day I broke my foot on my 25th birthday, and I didn't go back
Wait, how'd you break your foot?
in a wrestling match.
Did you
In
stick up a midget's ass or something? Like what happened?
one of the backyard shows, I somehow I did a frog splash off the top rope to the outside of the ring through a table, and somehow I cracked my heel.
You guys scare me when you do that shit out of the ring. You guys scare me when you start fucking with barricades and then it goes into the street because all you need is like a civilian to see a brawl in the street and they
Oh,
think
right,
it's real. Then the police come and then the cops come crawling up. Hey, what's going on here? Um,
right.
who have you not worked with yet that you really want to work with, or a couple of people?
Ooh, I haven't worked with Tremont yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Huh.
that would be a fun one. Um, man, trying to think. See, now my mind just went blank. When you asked me that question, my mind just went blank.
You're allowed to pick up to three people or five. I thought you work with Tremont because he works like I've seen him like all over the place. Or I thought you worked
No,
for him at some point.
no, not yet. Masada's one.
Yeah.
We had a match scheduled for April of 2020, and that one never happened and never came back to it. I would have loved to have a match with Sabu.
Yeah.
I got the team with him once in a cage match, war game style cage match. Actually, Dylan was on the opposing team too, on a family friendly show at that.
Are you serious?
Yep.
They put Dylan on a family-friendly show?
Oh, a few. He's beat my ass on family friendly shows a few times.
Oh
Yeah,
my
like
God.
I was. That was 2014. I was like 2 years in. And they're like, "Oh, you get to work with Necro Butcher at like a festival show too." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Not like a JCW on like a Juggalo Championship Wrestling. Have you done any of those with Fago
I,
Soda?
I've done one. I've done one.
Did they throw anything at you?
No, no, they didn't. It was pretty good. It was here in Detroit. I worked with Aiden Blackheart, Super Bloody. That was a fun one.
I hear so many stories. Pondo told me like something sharp was thrown at him, and I think it was like a quarter with a blade on it. Then another
Oh,
time it was car keys that were thrown. Yeah, if someone threw the car keys, I just take them. Then I'd go in the parking lot and like hit the alarm and see whose
see
car it
who's
is.
in
I'm
it.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, thanks for the car, bitch, and just go driving off with it till you
Yeah.
get busted. But yeah, I like I did some family friendly shows and I thought on family friendly shows they're not going to bump a woman, but they do it anyway, I guess,
Oh
just for
yeah.
storyline purposes,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is interesting. So yeah, that's I could see you. Did you ever work with Drake before? Drake Younger
Nope. I am this coming Friday though at
at
Horror
Horror
Slam.
Slam?
Yep. Yep.
It seems like that's your home company.
Yeah. Yeah. It is my home company. Yeah.
I think you should just like own it or like step up as the booker or something like that. Or is that asking for too much? Is that me being too ambitious?
Yeah. Yeah. That's Briar Wellington and Rachel Green. They run it.
Okay, yeah, I heard of Rachel before. I think I
Yeah.
tried to reach out to her. Yeah, but it looks like a fun place to go. So
Yeah.
aside from Japan and Mexico, are there any other feds you haven't worked at? Or do you actually, before you answer that, do you think we're over flooded with too many indies right now?
Ooh, at times, yes. At times, yes. Um, I haven't worked for GCW. I need to get there. I need that one. Um, but yeah, at times there's like here in Michigan, it's there would be like um see May 18th example. There are three shows within
Mm.
5 miles of each other. Two of them are running at the same time. Like how many fans do you expect to come to each show? But they're all within 10 minutes of my house, so that makes me happy. I'm on two of them. So
Well, wait, are you on both shows that are like at the same time?
no, I'm on Flophouse that starts at 2 o'clock in the
Oh,
afternoon,
okay.
and then Metro Pro Wrestling starts at like 7:30.
Wow, that's like so unfair to the fans. Because years ago with Philly, when they start, you had like 3PW, you had CCW, and then all of a sudden like ROH came in, and then they're like
Mm-hmm.
running shows against other promotions, and it just they weren't doing matinee shows. And it was just so unfair that you had to have fans choose like where they want to go. And it's just not fair, because especially in this day and age with the economy, I'd much rather see promotions like team up and work together
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
somehow. but I know that's not going to happen because back then we didn't even do that. We tried to, but
Never
it
happened.
failed epically. Yeah. Uh, it's just like, why are we even doing this at this age? Seriously. Then you get into the whole dilemma of like paying guys not to work on this person's show. And I would never do that. But
Right.
that's what they were doing. And it was just such a shitty thing to do to the boys as well. Do you think that the indies are also oversaturated with workers right now?
Yeah, I think so. Because there's a Truth Martini runs a school here
Hmm.
in Michigan. He's got ties with like ROH, and he's trained people that are in WWE, AEW, Japan, all that stuff. Um and he's pumping out classes like every 6 months. So there's a constant flow of new guys coming in. Now, they might not all last, but there's a constant flow of green guys coming in every 6 months or so.
That's so
And that,
annoying. Like, what do you do? Like, I know we were all that green person at once, but
mhm.
what's your reaction when you have a match with someone so green and they just fuck everything up?
I, I I'm patient with people. Like
Ugh.
that's I can be very patient with people, and I know a lot aren't. It can be frustrating, but like you said, we've all been there. I just the best thing I try to tell them is don't let your ego take hold of you, because you're green. You're gonna get booked at all these shows because you're cheap, and at the same time, there's a whole nother class learning the same exact stuff you know. So like you need to keep that ego in check.
Yeah, I'm gonna steal that. So what is it? Hey, listen, you're fucking green. There are other people that are gonna be way cheaper than you and probably way better and don't have a fucking ego. So just watch it. That's how I would say it.
Yep.
That's the Jasmine way of doing things. It usually works for me. But no, it does make sense. I had Al Snow on the podcast and we were talking about like how the method is at OVW, but it's like a year-long program in three
Right.
different parts or four different parts. I forgot. But like in the part three is where they teach the psychology because I feel so many people lack the psychology that people are just going out there. They're doing the big moves just for the sake of doing the big moves and
Hmm.
all the the light tubes or whatever it is without really thinking, okay, what am I selling? Am I selling the leg? Am I
Right.
selling this?
Right.
Like, let's sell this for a while and just
Yeah.
milk it. I don't know if it's the crowd that fosters this or just the lack of work. I don't like, what's your take on that? Hey, so are you looking to spice things up in the bedroom? If you want to have a threesome with you, me, and Adam and Eve, go ahead on adamandeve.com. And if you put in the code Krazy Train, that's crazy with a K, you can get up to 50% off of most items and 10 free goodies. That's right. Go to adamandeve.com and put in the code Krazy Train, crazy with a K, and you can get up to 50% off of certain items and most of all, those 10 free gifts. You can give it to your wife, your girlfriend, whoever.
Like it just kind of how it evolved. Like there's not like I take a lot of pride in my selling, and I have been complimented in the past on my selling. So for me, like I love wrestling. Like I love the whole good guy versus bad guy and good versus evil, and this guy's getting his ass kicked and he makes this huge comeback. Like I love that stuff. And like it does get lost. It does get lost. It gets lost in my matches. I'm not perfect, but yeah,
It
I
depends what
love
you're
it.
working with too, because there's some guys
Yeah.
that call
Yes,
things
it
still.
does.
Do you say that you're more organic with yours, like improvisation and, you just kind of do it while you're in the ring? Or do you really go through? Because I see guys going through matches in the back, fine. You go through like the higher spots in it, blah, blah, blah. Then I see the guys doing, okay, hip toss, acid drop,
Oh yeah.
heads. I mean, you see these different types of like methods. What's your method, you'd say?
I like it again, it depends who you're working with. I can call a match move for move with somebody. Am I going to remember all of it? Probably not. But then okay, I'm working with Pondo. Pondo, how do you want to start? Okay, this is how we're going to start. How do you want to finish? Okay, this is how we're going to finish. Let's go have fun.
Let's go have fun, beat the shit out of
Yeah.
each other, and get bloody and get glass and all this other shit, right?
Yep. It's a good time.
What's one weapon you haven't used that you want to use?
There's not much that I haven't used.
Gossets?
What's that?
Gossets? Gussets?
Oh, I use gussets a lot. I use gussets a lot. I have the perfect one on each side of the mohawk. I got big scars from gussets, and yeah, I use gussets a lot. I use syringes a lot too. I know you said you don't like needles. I do all kinds of stuff with syringes through my hands, through my lips, my nose.
I don't like needles, but I volunteer to get those IV infusions all the time of vitamins
Okay.
because those
Yep.
are good for you. But you should see the drama that I put the nurse through all the time, like for a good 10
Yeah.
minutes. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna die. Oh my God, we're gonna die. I'm dying. My kid, I'm gonna die. Help me. Then it's in. I'm like, oh, what was all the drama for? Uh, so you gotta get the dramatics in there whenever you get that type of the needle.
Oh, yeah.
I gotta amp it up. So yeah, that's what's the worst injury you've had to date, and hopefully they're like no more after this.
Well, aside from concussions, I don't. I mean, concussions are pretty bad. It's a bruise on the brain. I've had two, maybe three concussions, a couple staph infections that put me in the hospital. Um, Bulging discs in my back is probably the worst, like physical injury though, and that was just from a regular suplex, a clean suplex on the floor.
Well, it's on
But
the floor.
yeah, but I've taken that move I don't know how many times, and then just that one time, bulging disc in my back. I was like crooked for like 3 weeks. It was weird.
Do you have insurance?
Yes, I do have insurance. And I have Aflac insurance, so if I get hurt and I go to the hospital, I get a check for it.
What insurance is that?
Aflac, the duck, Aflac.
No.
Yeah, it's like a personal insurance is what it's called. It's supposed to cover like co-pays and time off work and stuff.
Oh,
Yeah, it's pretty
that
cool.
sounds responsible.
Yeah. Well, I do the heating and cooling, so I'm constantly working with sheet metal. I'm always getting cut up at that job too. I've cut tendons in my hands and stuff doing that.
Yeah, like with Necro, I told him, I also told Panda this next time, just get traveling insurance because it covers your
Oh,
medical overseas. Because technically, by law, like I did look up the Japanese law, he's with Necro Butcher being in the hospital, he only has to pay 40% of the bill. And he's been
okay.
there for like 3 weeks already in the big hospital. I'm like,
Right, right, right.
I
I'm
don't know
sure that's a
how much
big
this is going
bill.
to be.
Yeah, I'm sure
Yeah.
that's a big bill.
Coming back from some of these, I don't get like, I don't think some people overcome certain injuries. I see Big Joe, you know, Big effing Joe from the UK.
Yep, yep. I
So
know,
I
Joe.
saw this thing with like glass sticking out of his leg. It's like you just have to like stop doing some of this stuff, man. Like, do you have a limit of what you'll like not do?
Oh, absolutely. Fire is a definite no. I don't like fire. And half the time it doesn't work right anyways. Yeah, fire is no. And you had said about getting waterboarded at the haunted house.
It was
I would
blackout.
say that was probably the worst thing that's ever happened to me in a wrestling match.
Really?
Casanova Valentine waterboarded me with a pitcher of beer, and it was awful. It was awful. I'll never do that again.
Did you have bruises already?
Um, it was like mid match. It was like mid match.
What they do is they hoodwink you at blackout. This is the very first one that I went to. They hoodwink you first, and then my head was like in this thing, and then they just dunked me into the water.
Oh, oh,
Now, here's the scary part in all of this. Someone took me there on a date, not telling me what it was.
oh no. Yeah.
So when the whole thing was done and over with, like I left. I just left, and he's like, the guy's like trying to find me to see where I went. I didn't call him because that's kind of fucked up if you take someone to do that. Like you don't know, you know me well, but not like that well to be thinking, oh, she'll probably like this. No, dickwad, I don't actually. So
Right.
like go get raped or something in your ass. Like don't think things you don't know anything about, please. So if that maybe made sense. But yeah, it was a freaky experience. But yeah, waterboarding is not fun. So you don't want to get waterboarded. We've established that you don't want to do fire. With fire, it's Roncinol lighter fluid. I used to eat fire, and I
Oh
was
yeah.
afraid of fire. Yeah, so it's always Roncinol because you don't burn. But I've seen fire spots go wrong.
Oh yeah. It's look at what happened with Masada. Was it 2 years ago now? Or a year
Yeah,
ago?
yeah,
Yeah.
that was
That
really
was bad.
scary.
That was bad. Yeah.
It made it into the newspapers in Europe. I'm like reading this thing in the German newspaper one morning. I'm like, oh shit, that's Masada. I
Yeah.
was
I
there.
mean,
This is it.
happened to JJ had an incident with it too a few years
What?
back. JJ, JJ
Really?
Escobar. Yeah. Where he does this, set his balls on fire and put it out with a weed whacker. Yeah, a
Oh my
match
God.
with him and Eric Ryan.
Wait, he put it out with a weed whacker?
That yeah, that set him on fire and then hit him with a weed whacker. But the fire didn't go out. He ended up taking his pants off, like
Okay.
outside the ring and everything. It was crazy.
Were his balls exposed? Okay. That's That's too much. Yeah. And then Hillbilly was like, I want to do a coffin spot. I was like, you don't, he always gets these silly ideas to like do coffin spots and fire. This is hardcore Hillbilly. And he
Yep,
usually
yep.
gets these silly ideas when like no one's around to monitor him. Now, I worked as a magician's assistant for a while. And I could tell
Okay.
you what can go wrong in any given situation. So, yeah, I talked him out of it the last time, but I mean, I don't control what he does after, like when he's at IWA Mid South. Did you do IWA Mid South yet?
Nope, I haven't done Mid South. I did Deep South once, that right
It's
before the
almost the
pandemic.
same.
Yeah,
What's the difference?
Deep South ran by Kevin Brandon. I Mid South was Ian Rotten.
Does Deep South mean they like do noodling and shit? Like Mid South, they don't kiss their sisters? Like, I don't get the difference, man, but okay. It's just different promoters at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah. Mid South was Indiana, I believe. Deep South's Georgia and all that stuff. All that
Okay, yeah.
down. Yeah.
That's where all the incest is. Um, so if people want to find out where you are and like where to see you wrestle and buy your merchandise, where do they go?
You find me on Facebook, Chuck Stein, or Instagram, the underscore D dot W dot B. I'm on Twitter too. It's Chuck Stein's my real name too, so it's easy to find me.
Are
There's
you
matches on
Jewish?
YouTube's. Nope,
You're not Jewish?
nope, not Jewish. It's
With the
German
name
name.
like Stein? Oh, like Dr. Stein, like the Halloween album. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's German name.
You could be like the remember Halloween?
Yeah.
So you could be like Dr. Stein, like the mad scientist, because you had that whole gimmick
Hmm.
before. So it's Chuck Stein, DWB, and he's all over Facebook, Instagram. He's booked heavily. So if anyone wants to book him, what is the best way to contact you to book you?
Any of the social media messengers. I check that stuff a lot. If I get messages, I'll respond.
And what's your limit on a death match? Like how many death matches do you think you could do or wrestling matches in one whole weekend?
Well, okay, last year I was in the hospital with a staph infection in August, and with those they say take a month off. Well, I only took 2 weeks off, and I came back and I did 7 matches in 3 days. Three of them were death match. I did. I turned 47 last year and I did 66 matches. That's probably the most I've ever done in a year. That's all. And that was with 3 months off.
How'd you
That's
get a staph infection?
um glass. I got the both times I've gotten them in my elbows. So now you see I wear elbow pads now and I hate them. I don't like them. They're not comfortable, but after getting a staph infection in each elbow, it's time.
Yeah, my dream match. Well, one of my dream matches got taken away from me because PCO had a staph infection.
Mm.
I was supposed to go on vacation that week, and I was not going to be at that XPW show. And I was originally that's what it was. Then I heard it was Necro versus PCO. I'm like, oh God, I'm just gonna switch my vacation. I have to like working with
Oh, right.
PCO is the best thing.
Mm-hmm.
Pierre Carl Oulet. So that was the biggest deal for me. I know it sounds crazy. And we find out He couldn't make it. He had a staph infection.
Uh, yeah, that
He worked
sucks.
at Bev, which was fine. That was a great match. But I went up to PCO at a meet and greet that I was on, and I said, we're supposed to work together. I was looking forward to caning you. So hopefully somewhere down the line, wherever it is, I'll have the chance to cane PCO or work with him
Right.
in some capacity.
That
Which would be fun.
It's
Huh?
funny. That's another thing that I don't like is some canes. And you hit me like 20 times in that match. I was like, oh, please stop. That's okay.
It was to get you away from the wearing. I was because you pissed me off. That's why. Because
It
of
happens.
hillbilly, you hit hillbilly, and that was the whole thing. It was to get you away
Yeah.
from me. That's why I just ran off after. I'm like, okay, I've had enough of this. But you weren't unpleasant, so I didn't like do it on purpose to you. So if I don't like someone, you'll know. Like you could tell
Oh
if I
yeah.
really don't like them. I'll fucking chase after them into the like way up to that curtain. That is how far I'll chase you if I really don't like you. And you've got to give me a good reason not to like you. But you
Right.
were like, just stop fucking hitting me. That's why I kind of like backed off. Like, "Ah, I hate you. Fuck that. Look, some people like it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes. Did I hit you too hard?
No, no, it was just that I just those things sting. They
Oh, did
sting.
it?
Yeah, they sting. They sting me when I get hit with them. I know everybody reacts different to stuff, but yeah, it stings when they hit me. I don't like them. But I'll
He's
do
not.
it. I'll do it though.
So, ladies, he's not into the rough stuff. And the gay guys listening, he's not into the rough stuff. So
No.
there goes that. Let me have your socials again, real quick, and your upcoming agenda, please.
Chuck Stein on Facebook, the_d.w.b on Instagram, Chuck Stein 138 on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And upcoming, I got Horror Slam May 10th, Drake Younger and Dr. Redacted for my Horror Slam Deathmatch Championship. May 18th, I have Flop House, Satu Jin, 2 out of 3 doors match. And then May 18th, I have Metro Pro Wrestling against Crazy King from Mexico. And there's a whole bunch more. Like those are upcoming.
I think
Yeah.
you just go to the Horror Slam. Just assume that he's like booked on every Horror Slam show or like most of them. That's like the first
Oh
place
yeah.
you could find him.
I'm booked on every Horror Slam show.
So then
Yeah.
there you go. And then everything else just falls. Maybe this match at Metro would be your gateway to Mexico. So you never know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's good to know. Well, thanks for joining us, and thank you for taking the time to chat with me, even though I know it was a bit dodgy in the beginning. And
Yeah, that's
yeah,
okay.
good. All right. So thanks again, and thanks for listening to this week's episode of Krazy Train Podcast, guys and girls, and whatever else is. And I'll see you next week.